Hey guys, welcome to another Lucky Ghost Complete Beginner Guide. My goal here is simple, to create the best beginner guide on the internet. If I haven't lived up to that promise, let me know down in the comments below. In this video, I'm going to teach you absolutely everything you need to know to play this game confidently and effectively. Feel free to use the timestamps to jump back to the sections you need help with later. The first thing that's going to happen when you spawn into the game is it's going to ask you to create some armor, heal yourself up with some bandages, and create all of your basic items. The way you're going to create the most basic items in this game is from your crafting menu. So you'll open up your menu system, go to crafting, and then from here, you will have the option to create some makeshift armor and some improvised items. So basically, if it's a makeshift item or if it's an improvised item, you can create these items without having the crafting benches that you're going to need for items later on in the game. So you'll craft yourself a hood, gloves, pants, shoes, and a jacket to protect yourself from not only enemies, but from the sun itself here. And if you click on an item in here, it tells you exactly what you need to craft it and how many of that item you have. So here it says it's going to cost 3 plant fiber, and I have 67 of those. So I would just be able to craft 1. If I wanted to craft a ton of them, like let's say I was creating bandages, right? These heal kits here, which you're going to use tons of. This is your primary form of healing throughout the first 30 hours of the game. You're going to be able to just kind of pick up a ton of plant fibers, and then you'll hit max. And you'll tell it, I want to create a ton of these, and it'll queue it up. Now, the nice thing is you don't have to sit here and watch that. You can run around while it's crafting, and it's just going to pop up on your screen there. You see it on the right side. It's telling me that those have been crafted so far. It's saying how many it's made and how many I have in total there. Once you've crafted some basic armor and bandages, it's going to ask you to create a CUTTERAY. This is what you're going to use to collect all kinds of things in this game, from granite to copper to metal, and it's also going to allow you to cut open doors. And if you click on this item, you'll see in the description right there, it tells you this version works on granite, copper, metal, and doors. And this is important because you'll be able to craft better versions of this that will later allow you to cut open and collect even better forms of ore, like copper ore or iron ore. So you're going to be creating better and better CUTTERAYs as you play through the game. So if you get to a rock and you're not able to effectively harvest it, it's likely that you need to be crafting a better CUTTERAY in order to do so. Another thing that you're going to be making quite a bit of is your improvised power packs. There's some things on your character that simply won't work without a power pack. So if we look at our character here, you're going to collect these belts that you use. And these belts will do things like protect you from fall damage. So you jump off a really high cliff, and before you hit the ground, this activates, preventing you from taking any damage when you hit the ground. It's incredibly convenient because this is a massively vertical game. Like if we look out there, you see that giant structure in the distance, you're going to climb that and you'll likely fall off of it, and other pillars that you climb looking for loot or enemies or encampments and all kinds of things like that. But before we continue, now Dune is awesome, but you won't always be at your computer to play it, and we all need something to play while watching Netflix or on the go, and that's where this game comes in. I love this game's barbarians because they are fantastic for clan boss battles, dungeons, and arenas thanks to their big damage and massive debuffs. Not to mention, they just look awesome. My favorite barbarian is Turvold with his massive greatsword and a beard that could bench press a Reddit mod. Make sure you click my link in the description or scan my QR code on the screen to get insane bonuses available only via my link. You'll immediately get a huge starter pack with Ultimate Galek from the Orc faction, who has the powerful and unique ability to reduce the turn meter. You'll get another starter pack after reaching level 15 that includes an epic Zargala from the Orcs as well. After downloading with my link, use promo code Desert Queen to get Tuhanarok for free, an incredible legendary support champion. In addition, both new and existing players can redeem 2 more promo codes with useful resources. Promo codes for all users can be found in the description of this video. And massive shout out to you guys and a raid for helping me plant what will one day be 10 massive beautiful trees this month. When you get into the game, be sure to join Clan Vegeta Best Arc 8888. And I'll see you on the battlefield. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the video. It's a very vertical game, and so you will be falling substantial distances, making this incredibly useful. This won't work when this is out of energy. When this thing's empty, this doesn't work, and you'll simply fall and take fall damage instead. So it's important to keep an eye on your improvised power pack. Make sure that this thing is working for you. In order to do that, you're just going to keep an eye on that repair bar right there. You see how a section of that bar is filled in with a lighter tan, and then there's a dark tan, and then there's a red section. So the lighter tan area indicates that this is how much durability is left on this item. The dark gray area is the area that can be repaired, and the red area is the area that you cannot repair anymore. And so what this does is it incentivizes you to create new ones eventually, because that red area will grow larger and larger until eventually the only reasonable thing to do is just create an entirely new one instead of repairing this one. Similarly, the CUTTERAY that we were just talking about, it will not work without this power pack equipped. And there's better and better power packs. This is the most basic one here. It's an improvised power pack. And what that means is it has a lower starting power pool and it regens slower. So once you've used it all up, you simply wait for it to recharge, and then you can use that tool again, whether it's your CUTTERAY, whether it's your Dew Reaper, or whatever device you're using that's going to be using this power. You just simply have to wait for it to recharge. So the higher the regen per second and the higher the power pool, the more efficiently you're going to be utilizing those devices. So once you've completed your first set of basic tasks, and by the way, these will be popping up in the top left corner there, you see where it says the 5th trial of AQL. So you'll see these important primary objectives like this popping up in the top left corner, and they'll be purple. Eventually, you'll get some side quests, and those will appear just below that, and they'll be blue. So eventually that purple quest in the top left is going to ask you to craft yourself a construction tool. You'll be able to do that in this same menu right here, construction tool. You'll build that. It costs 20 salvaged metal. You'll find salvaged metal on the ground. You'll also be able to walk up to chunks of metal that you find on the ground. So here's just like one individual piece that I would be able to pick up if my backpack wasn't full right now. And that would give me a few salvaged metal that I could contribute towards the cause of crafting one of these things. Now you'll use this, you'll pull it out, put it on your wheel here, which you can either access with middle mouse button, just hold it down and you can access any of those items there. Or alternatively, you can simply hit the number associated with it. So if I hit 1, it's going to pull out my knife. If I hit 6, it pulls out this building tool. Now, the first thing you're going to build is a SUB-FIEF. And this is essentially dictating the area which you are allowed to build in. So you're definitely going to want to choose a spot that is going to be a good spot for building. So what determines whether a spot is good for a SUB-FIEF or not? Well, initially, there's a few things that I would bear in mind with my first base. And the important thing to know about your first base is it's temporary. You're going to abandon it. The game's going to have you move north, create a brand new base. And so the 2 or 3 things I would keep in mind when creating my first base is 1, you're going to be doing a lot of side quests out of the Griffin Reach trade post, right? You're going to be going here a lot. You're going to head to your base. You're going to go back here. You're going to head to your base. You're going to go out somewhere. You're going to come back. You're going to go to your base. So ideally, in a perfect world, you're going to be somewhere not too far from Griffin's Reach trade post with your first base. Now, this can be kind of hard to figure out early on with your first base. You're going to spawn in, you're going to be new to the game, and you're not going to be sure where you are, but most likely you're going to have spawned somewhere down here. It could be anywhere in this section of the map. In a perfect world, you would run up, find Griffin's Reach, and then build somewhere adjacent to it so that you can save yourself a lot of running back and forth later, because at this point in the game, you don't have a vehicle yet. So it's hoofing it on foot, and every time you cross this desert is a chance that you might die. However, the worms in this area of the game are substantially less dangerous than the worms in this area of the game, and so on. They do get more aggressive and more dangerous the deeper into the game that you get. So, you know, it's a little more forgiving down here. Don't stress too much if you aren't able to build your base right next to Griffin's Reach. That's okay. It just means that you're gonna have to spend a little more time running. The other thing that I would try to be near with my base, because early on you don't have a lot of ways of dealing with this problem, is I would try to make sure that I was close to these things right here. These flowers you'll see all over the game, and when you do, you can press E to drink from them. Now, when you do that, you'll only be able to fill up the first bar of your thirst meter on the left side there. So these you can drink up until that point, but never beyond that point. So these are a great way to keep yourself at the minimum threshold of your thirst meter. And then to go beyond that, you're gonna actually have to collect things like a water bottle, this LITERJON here. You'll get water, you'll put it inside of this, and then you can drink out of this and you'll see that meter went above that first bar there, that first slash in that meter. And that's the only way to go to beyond that is with things like that, by drinking from another source beyond these plants on the ground. So having your base near this early on is going to save you a lot of hassle, because dang near every time you're in your base, you're also going to realize, man, I need more water. I need to top myself off. That's a really big part of the early game gameplay loop, is managing your hydration meter, because you really have no other way to handle it early on except for to barely get that meter full. So those are the two things I would keep in mind when building my first base. You can see my first base was down here, so it wasn't too far from it. Coincidentally, I didn't really try to move my base closer. I just spawned in and then invited my friend to the group, and then we kind of met in the middle and then made our base there. So this is where it ended up. Now, this is a good time to discuss the map in this game, because there's a lot of really valuable information on this map. So let's talk about it so you can make sure you understand it. So you've got these little cave-like symbols. These are usually little bandit camps, little caves that you can stumble onto. There will be 1 or 2 enemies there, not often more than that. You kill them, and then there's usually a little chest there that you can loot and get some of that early game useful loot. And right here it tells you micro sandwich fabric as well as EMF generator. And so you'll use those things to power your base. So when you hover over these, it tells you exactly what materials you're going to find there. And then you've got these ones here. You've got these 3 little homes. It looks like these are substantially larger bases. These are outposts. So if we hover over this one right here, it says 1 out of 1 intel collected. And that just means not that you're getting 1 intel, which we'll talk about more in a moment. Instead, it'll oftentimes give you something like 5 intel, right? It tells you that there's 1 intel collectible there that will likely give you more than a single intel once picked it up. The intel is probably the most important thing to grab from these areas, on top of the chests that will give you crafting materials that you're going to need in order to build all your early game tools and crafting benches. I'd already played through this section of the game once when the developers invited me out to Norway to play the game, and so I was eager to get deeper into the game this time. So you'll see I skipped a lot of these, and to be honest with you, I never really found that to be a problem. I was never short on intel. So if you don't get all of these in the early game, that's okay. If you head out up here to get into the deeper crafting systems and the better gear, the better weapons and all that, and you skip some of these, that's more than fine. But I would try to grab at least a couple so that you're able to get enough research points, this intel right here, to unlock things. And you'll see all the intel that you've collected here. This is what you've got available to spend, and then you spend it on this menu here. So if I were to learn how to craft this slaver still suit, so I click research right here or hold down the space bar, it's gonna say, do you want to learn how to make all of these items? And I say, yeah. And now it goes from 86 to 76. I used the 10 that it said I was going to use to learn that. Whereas this item, it would only cost me 5 intel to learn how to use. And so that's what the intel is for. It's for unlocking the ability to craft new things, which is going to be really, really important. Clearly, it's a survival game, right? You're crafting a base, you're crafting armor, weapons, vehicles, all of that's going to be in that research menu. You'll have to learn it there before you're able to craft it. So that's what these places are for that say they have intel inside of them. Then you've also got these shipwrecks. Now this shipwreck is a PvE shipwreck, but later on you'll stumble into shipwrecks like this one, which is a PvP shipwreck. Okay, so just be aware of the fact that after the first zone, shipwrecks are going to be potentially PvP areas where other players can kill you, and you can alternatively kill them and loot each other to get better loot. So these, if you hover over it, says here you can get plasteel, microflora fiber, and mechanical parts. These are 2 more items that you're going to need loads of to create better gear and vehicle components. So in order to get out of this region here, before you can leave this area and make it up here, one of the things you're going to need to make is a sand bike, right? And so that's why a place like this is very important for collecting those kinds of materials. And then the next type of location that we will discuss is this one right here. You've got testing stations throughout the game and laboratories. And a lot of times these will be underground locations that you go down into, and these are probably the biggest dungeons in the game. These are the largest ones where you'll go down and it's easy to spend 15-20 minutes exploring your way through one of these. It's like an advanced network of tunnels and rooms and enemies and loads of loot. Whenever you're heading into one of these, make sure your inventory is empty, because you are going to be full and bursting at the seams and likely having to leave some items behind once you've left this place, because there's just so much loot inside. So it's a fantastic place to go and get loot loot anytime you find one of these testing stations. Now, while I have the map open, actually, we can see here a sandstorm coming through. So this is what a sandstorm looks like. If you're outside when one of these things passes over you, you will die. It will kill you unless you're able to make it inside of your base or inside of a little cave, or sometimes you can hug a wall if the wall is facing the right direction and the game says, hey, okay, this is sufficient protection from this sandstorm. We'll let you live through this one, right? But I would try not to depend on hugging a wall because it's kind of finicky and it doesn't always protect you from these sandstorms. The best thing to do is to go underground, get in your base, or find a cave that you can hide in for a moment. So then once it's passed by, you're safe to go outside again. These are going to roll by frequently, every 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. These things are rolling through. You'll usually get an alert on your screen and in your ear saying a sandstorm is approaching. You'll get this warning, and it usually gives you about 30 to 60 seconds to get the heck out of the way. Unless you happen to be, right on the corner of the map where it's spawning, that's where you can get into some trouble really fast if you're just kind of caught out in the wrong area at the wrong time. So that's how the map works for this section of the game here. And this is what your base looks like right here. You can see that little symbol. So if you're ever trying to figure out which way you have to run to get back to your base, if you look at our compass there, you can see that that base is 3,781 meters in that direction, so that you don't have to constantly open your map up and say, hey, am I pointed in the right direction when you're trying to get back to your base? Now, this can be a little confusing once you have more than one base. So if I was standing right here, it would tell me I have a base in this direction and a base in this direction. And so you would then kind of have to take note of, okay, this one's northeast of me. I got to run that way. I got to ignore this symbol for this base down here. And I could abandon this base since I'm not using it anymore. I haven't yet though, just in case, although that thing's probably going to deteriorate sometime soon. Now, let's talk about why that would happen. You know that sandstorm we just talked about a second ago? So those sandstorms, along with killing you, they'll also kill any base that isn't protected by a shield. So how do you have a shield protecting your base? Well, what you're going to have here is you have this SUB-FIEF that tells you that your base will power down in such and such time. And what that's saying is in that amount of time, your shield is going to be empty. So how do you keep that? Well, you've got a generator and you put fuel cells that you find while you're looting chests, looting enemies. You'll find these all over the place, and you put these fuel cells in your generators, and that's not only going to power your shield that protects your base from those storms, but it's also going to power all of your crafting benches that are inside of your base. So these are really important, and it's really important to keep these full. Now, you can see here that mine has 1,545 of these sitting in here, and it's going to be protecting me for 20 days. So it's not something that you're going to have to manage every 5 minutes to make sure your base isn't getting destroyed. You'll find tons of these when you're looting things throughout the game, and you'll be able to slap them in here, and then you don't have to worry about it for days or maybe even weeks at a time. Now, once you're able to, you're definitely going to want to head to Griffin's Reach trade post, accept all of the quests there. There's going to be a bulletin board, right? You walk in, there's going to be some NPCs you can talk to, accept some side quests from, and there's also going to be a bulletin board where you can accept a series of quick quests that you can do, and it's going to give you rewards like Solaris. That's this currency right here, right? This is one of the primary rewards that you get from questing. You'll be able to spend that Solaris at NPC merchants that are found in quest hubs and towns within this game. Now, the important thing to know about Solaris is you can drop this when you die. In fact, you drop all of it when you die. And so what I highly advise, because the things that you spend Solaris on usually don't cost more than 500 Solaris, 1,000 Solaris. And I think one item I bought was 3,000. So at no point would you ever need to risk having 24K on you. Certainly not in the early game. Perhaps later in the end game, there's merchants with some very valuable things. But when you're still in this first 30 hours of the game, this isn't something you'd want to do. So what you would do is you come here and you would at minimum split your stack, right? And then put half in here. So that if something goes wrong, let's say a worm eats you and you lose everything on you. Actually, we should talk about that next. What happens when a worm eats you? Because it's very important to know. But if you do die and you lose your Solaris, you're only losing half. And you're going to get way more of that than you need, especially early on. It's never a bad idea to toss half in your storage containers. Now, once you're satisfied with what you've completed in this area, you'll get a quest like this one right here. It says bike building, and it's going to have you learn how to craft a sand bike and even deliver some extra components here for a sand bike. like. So once you've completed that quest, it's likely going to be when you're ready to leave this area and journey northward. Okay. Now, this is a somewhat dangerous trip. I'm just warning you now. I played with a friend throughout this early access here, and he died on the way up here, and not on purpose. He ended up kind of going over here, ending up in this area about here, and the worm got him. And this was kind of tragic because we knew we were leaving this base behind. It said you have to abandon this base and go up here and create a new base. And so we're like, oh, okay, we got to grab all of our materials that are in our chests, put them onto our person, right? Put them in our bags and carry as much as we can up to the new base, right? Because you don't want to leave all this materials you've collected behind. And he died. He died with a lot of them. So if you're playing with someone else, split your materials between the two of you. So you have half the scrap metal, they have half the scrap metal, you have half the granite, they have half the granite. And that way, if one of you does die, you've still got plenty of the materials that you made it with. But if you just beeline it straight up to these rocks, you know, and you don't miss and end up in this void here, you should be okay to make it without the worm getting you. Oh, I should also mention, before you leave this area, you're also going to get a quest in the top left there, the purple quest. It's going to tell you to complete some trials. So you're going to do 1 or 2 trials down here. I can't remember which, but it'll ask you to do a couple trials, and you'll definitely want to do those before you leave this area down here. Now, once you make it up to this area, same thing. So this time you'll notice the quest hub is right here. And this time I built right next to the quest hub, and I have no regrets. That was on purpose. We got up here. We saw that there was a quest hub up here. The way we knew that there was a quest hub up here is because we have this item here, Survey Probe Launcher. So this is an item you'll be able to craft relatively early in the game. In fact, the game has you do it as a quest early on. It's going to say, hey, craft a probe launcher, craft a probe. So you'll come to your crafting bench, you'll click on schematics here, and you'll create a survey probe launcher and a survey probe. And basically what you do is you equip that, you just put it on. So we put it like that. There. Now I have it out, and I'd have that probe in my inventory. I aim at the sky and I shoot it. So in order to use a probe launcher, you're going to need to climb to a very tall location. I don't know exactly how tall it is, but if you go to the tallest place that you can see in your line of sight, hopefully central, right? Because it's going to reveal the map around you. And when it does that, it's also going to reveal all these locations around you, which is why I can see all these places I haven't been to. They're not colored in because I revealed them with my probe without actually going all the way over to them. So you climb up to the tallest rock you can, hopefully somewhere in the middle of the map, and it'll reveal all of the locations and the map, both. It'll remove the fog of war and reveal each of these key locations like that. So you're going to use one of those down here. And then once you get up to the Vermillius gap here, you're going to use another one, climb up in the middle and use that. And then boom, it's going to reveal all these locations on the map so that you can just go straight to them without having to really search for them. They're just going to be revealed, letting you know that they're there. That's what the Survey Probe Launcher is for. You're definitely going to want to use it every time you arrive in a new zone. For how much knowledge it gives you, it's a very cheap item. Now that you're in this area here, this is when you're going to need to upgrade your CUTTERAY so that you can start harvesting things like copper and iron and all kinds of stuff like that, right? And in order to craft, you're going to need to do the same. So you're definitely going to always want to make sure your CUTTERAY is easily accessible. I've got mine on slot number 3 here. So what you do is you right click, that reveals a line. You just trace a line with your CUTTERAY, boom, the rock explodes, and then it slaps the materials into your inventory for you. It's as easy as that. And that's how the CUTTERAY works on everything. So if you find scrap metal or if you needed those fuel cells, you could go up to one of these, scan it, and it's going to put a line on it. Boom. And there you see, we just got 48 fuel cells. Tons of them. Remember how I was telling you those are real easy to collect? You just find a crate like that, you know, and then boom, you've got loads of it. So that's how your CUTTERAY works. And remember, it's using the power from your power pack that you've got equipped. Whether you have an improvised power pack or let's say you have a better one, like a power pack MK2. Now you see how I was talking about earlier, this one has regen 8, power pool 100. This one has regen 16. So double the regen and double the power pool. So that means it refills way faster. It's way harder to run out. So you definitely would want to use this over this once you had access to it. And you'll be able to craft these and you'll find loads of them on enemies and stuff like that. Most of my gear at this point in the game is actually found gear, not crafted gear, which was unexpected. But the reason that's the case for me is because I did craft my first set of these things and then a worm ate me and I lost them all. And I was then able to put on the sets that I had picked up from fallen enemies. Actually, let's talk about the worms. So the worms are going to be running around this map. We've talked about it, right? You're safe when you're on the rocks. If you've ever watched Dune, you know how this works, right? So when you're running through the sandy area, very dangerous. You don't want to stand out there longer than you have to. In fact, let's demonstrate this right now so I can talk about the meter that appears on screen and what it means. So we're going to pull out my vehicle, get on that, and you'll see on my screen right now, there is no meter in the middle of the screen, kind of right where my rear tire is. Now, if I go out here onto the sand, now we're getting into the open area here. And you see that bar, that meter right there saying that there is a worm, kind of aware of my presence, kind of not. When it's yellow, you're okay. You're okay. When it's red, that's bad. That means he's really close. Oh, there he is. And he is definitely coming for me. Okay. When that's red, that means he's got you on his scent. He's coming right for you. Oh, and you can see the trail of his, there it is. Oh. Ooh, he almost got me, right? He almost got me just from hanging out there for a quick second. He knew I was there and he was coming for me. So you've really got to be careful. You'll see a symbol like this saying that it breached. So you know, hey, there is a sandworm in this general area. These sandworms are on rotations. They rotate around their area. You go out there, they become aware of you, and then they will come after you. If you see it's orange, like a dark orange color, that meter, then you're in danger. And when it's red, you need to get off the sand immediately. Okay. So that's how the sandworms become aware of you. What happens if they actually get you? Well, if the sandworm gets you, absolutely everything on your character is gone, right? He's going to take everything in your inventory, everything that you had collected while you were out. He's also going to take everything that you have on your Hot Wheel. He's also going to take all of your gear. The sandworm eating you is by far the absolute worst thing that can happen to you in this game, bar none, and it is not even close. So avoiding getting eaten by the sandworm at all costs is definitely a priority in this game. It's real easy to avoid getting eaten when you're playing safe and you're taking the shortest route. So the way you avoid getting eaten is you always take the shortest route from one rock to another. So I would not go from here to here, right? I wouldn't go from this rock to this rock. I would instead go from this rock to this rock and then to this rock, right? That way I'm never on the sand for too long at any one given point. And it's the second that you let your guard down and you're like, you know what? I've gotten away with it so many times. The sandworm hasn't gotten me yet. It'll be fine. And you start trying to take a long path from one of these places, right? You start going like, I can make it from here to here. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. That's the time he's going to get you and take everything. So always take that short route and you'll be fine. And when a sandworm does inevitably get you, just know I feel your pain. I was there. It happened to me and it stings, dude. It stings hard. But don't worry. You'll get your stuff back in no time. It hurts the most early in the game when you're in this area or when you're first getting to this area because you don't have backup gear yet. You don't have backup armor, backup weapons, backup cutting rays. And so you're basically starting from scratch. You spawn in your base naked and you're like, crap. Okay, I got to get back to work crafting, and you got to craft yourself a new set of gear, new cutting ray. And that part, it gives you some time to ferment in the feeling of despair that follows a worm strike. But later on, after you get past the early game, if we look at my chest here, I've got random pieces of armor just sitting here on standby. I found it on an enemy and I saved it because, hey, once in a while the worm strikes and, it might get you. So there you go. It's not so bad later on. It just really stings early on. So that's how the worm works. That's everything you need to know about the worm. Eventually, you'll get past sand bikes and you'll get past buggies and you'll get to the point where you have an ornithopter and you can just fly from one place to another. And then at that point, the worm threat is very mitigated, right? Because you're in the air and you don't really have to worry about it a whole lot. Now that you're in this part of the map, it's going to be a lot the same as the previous section down here. You're going to be going to these caves. You're going to be going to these encampments, collecting intel so that you can learn how to craft more stuff. You're going to be visiting the town hub and collecting contracts and completing those and then turning them in, right? And that's going to be kind of one of the things that propels you out to this side and propels you out to this side and propels you out to this side. The first thing you hopefully did was launch your probe into the air so you could reveal all of this and you're not flying so blind and know which caves you have and haven't gone to yet. All right, now let's talk about our UI really quick because you're going to be interacting with it the entire time you're playing this game. So on the top left side of the screen, that's where you're going to have your quest. That purple quest is going to unlock some abilities for you and stuff like that kind of coincide with your consumption of spice and all of that stuff. I'm going to try not to spoil anything too much in this video, so I'll leave it a little bit vague, but just know that the purple quest is going to be up there. That's your main story quest. And you kind of generally always want to do that or at least keep up with it. Don't fall too far behind with that. And then below that, you'll have all the side quests that you've picked up either from the boards or the NPCs in the game. And then below that there on the bottom left side of the screen, you've got a water meter. That's the blue vertical bar. You're always going to be wanting to keep an eye on that. When that gets to 0, you will start slowly draining health until you are dead. right? And on the bottom left there, you've got the green bar. That is going to be your stamina bar. So when you are climbing, it's going to consume that bar. And there's a few other things you can do that consume it as well. But you can sprint unlimited. That's fine. But it's just, you start climbing. So to climb, you jump on the wall or walk up to the wall, hold space. You just hold space and now you're climbing. And you can climb just about any surface in this game. I don't think I've run into a surface I couldn't climb. So if you want to climb something, you can. And as you're climbing, you'll see that green bar is depleting. Below that, you've got your health bar right there. And then below that, you've got the energy or this power pack that you're wearing. So here, if I start using my CUTTERAY, you can see it's consuming that energy and also it's damaging it, because the durability goes down on items. And then I stop using it and it recharges slowly but surely. Then in the middle of the screen here, we've got the abilities that we've chosen to use. By default, they are Q, X, and C. So you can use those abilities to, either get around or to fight the enemy. It's up to you whether you choose to slot mobility abilities or offensive abilities or defensive abilities, right? And the way that you're going to do that is by coming into your skills menu and then just choosing which ones you want. You just click and drag it. Boom. I could click and I could drag that there like that. And it changed it to that skill or that one right there. And then you'll notice these ones are a different shape. And so it's kind of like match the shape, right? So I could put anything this shape, like this one here, you put that there and do like that. So you've got abilities, which are your actual abilities. And then you've got techniques, which are just passives you can equip. You'll get skill points every time you level that you can slot into this tree. And then in the bottom right side of the screen, if you have it turned on, you'll be able to see your hotbar with all of your items. And these correspond to your quick wheel. If you're using controller, then you'll probably be using this instead to navigate, right? PC with mouse and keyboard, it's just mouse wheel down. You just press the mouse wheel button and it brings this up for you. And then in the top middle of the screen there, you have got the compass, which has all points of interest on it, whether they're quests, side quests, main story quests, or your base. So that does it for the UI. Now let's go over each of the menus that you can open into here. So this is your inventory. The important thing to know about your inventory is this bar over here. So you can see here, it says I'm at 175 V volume that we can carry. So if I was to drop this, boom, that goes down. When that's full, you cannot pick up anything. So you'll have two things limiting what you can pick up. You have a finite number of slots and you have a finite amount of volume that you can hold. If you fill up with one or the other, then you won't be able to pick up anything else. And the inventory struggle is fairly real in this game. I find myself bouncing off of that max capacity constantly. And that's what's going to demand that you return to base pretty frequently, is the fact that you're going to max out your carry capacity all the time. And there's going to be moments where you're having to decide what to leave behind, what not to leave behind. And, generally something like granite, this is granite right here, it weighs a lot and also it's easy to come by. So it's never a bad thing to leave behind, especially after you've already built your base. You're not going to have a ton of use for granite. So you'll learn to differentiate between the things you need and the things you don't. So that's what that volume bar is here. This is the other form of inventory limit, 33 out of 35. I can hold 35 different items. I've got 33 in my inventory right now and we're maxed out. So it's telling us that. Then here you got your quick wheel. So you can just drag things on here. And now that is slot number 1 as indicated by this number right here. I press 1, boom, that pulls out, or we press the mouse wheel, we select it and it pulls that out, right? Nice and easy, very functional, works really well. Then over here, we've got our armor. So you've got a helmet, a chest piece, pants, gloves, and boots. Now let's take a look at these items and understand what the stats on them mean, right? So we've got a yellow bar under this weapon. What does that mean? That's the durability of the weapon. So it's relatively full, it's fine. And eventually we would want to repair it. How do we repair that? Well, we go to a repair bench. Right here is a repair station. We use it and then we can tell it, hey, I want to repair this. You click on it and it says, this is going to cost 3 ingots. You have 363 iron ingots. Okay, repair item. And you click that and boom, it repaired it. But look, there's a little section in red that cannot be repaired. And every time I do that, that red section is going to grow until at some point I'm like, you know what? I just need a new CUTTERAY so that this thing isn't breaking constantly. And you craft a brand new one, hopefully a better one than you were using before. So that's how the repair system works. That's what that yellow bar means. So now let's look at our LITERJON. You can see it has a blue bar and it has a yellow bar. The blue bar is the amount of water carried within it. So there's blue bars. If we pour more water out here, extract, right? Now 3 bars are are filled up and it's got just a little yellow, right? So that thing is about to break. So we definitely want to repair it. Repair item. Now it's looking good. Lots of yellow, right? Lots of durability left, and it's got some water in it. This is what you'd want to have when you're heading out on another mission. You don't want to go out with a empty LITERJON if you can help it. Otherwise, you're going to constantly be having to hunt for water sources on the go, hunt for little plants, and those things aren't always available. Sometimes you can be up high or in an area that there just aren't any, right? So you tend to want to have some of this around on you. We've got our CUTTERAY, we've got our bandages. This is another thing that you're going to always want on you. And we've got our vehicle backup tool. Now, eventually the game's going to tell you to build a vehicle backup tool right around when it tells you to create a vehicle. And this is essential. This tool is essential to have on you because that is what is going to allow you to pull your bike out anytime you want and to put it away anytime you want, right? So here's the bike. Say we get to an enemy encampment. We want to run inside, but we don't want this thing to get destroyed by a sandstorm that happens to roll by. So we put it away. Now it's stored safely. Enemy player can't PvP the bike to death. A sandstorm can't kill it. It's safe as long as it's in here. And then when we want it again, we just equip that item and pull it out, jump on it, and we're good to go. That item, again, is called the vehicle backup tool, and you're definitely going to want one. Another tool that you're definitely going to want to have on you when you head out is going to be your blood extractor. At first, you'll create an improvised blood extractor. And what you do with this is you suck the blood out of an enemy. It puts it into a bag. You have to have a blood sack for your blood extractor. This pulls the blood out. It stores it in the sack. Then when it's full of blood, you come to one of these blood purifiers. You'll start out with a small one like this. You deposit the blood and you'll see that red meter fill up. Let's see, this one should have some. Yeah, here's the red meter. So it's got blood in it and it's going to process this blood and turn it into water that you can drink. Then you can either simply drink from this by holding down E, right? So if we hold down E, boom, we drank some of the water, or you can extract the water into your LITERJON. Generally, the best practice is to drink from a plant to fill up the first bar because you can do that for free. So you just head out to the nearest plant. Hopefully you built your base near some plants, right? Like those right there. And you drink from that to fill the first bar. Now, another thing you can do to get water besides that is you can harvest it with your Dew Reaper here. So you equip that, pull it out, and then you just hold down your left mouse button as you walk by and you'll see it's grabbing it. The plants that are glowing blue can be harvested. The ones that aren't have already been harvested. The important thing to know about this is you can only do this at night. The dew is only settling on these at night. During the day, you can't do this. So if you need water during the day to fill up your LITERJON, you're SOL, right? Now, when I did that, it filled up my LITERJON. See my LITERJON, all 4 bars are filled and I can drink from it. I just hit 8, boom, takes a nice slurp. We hit 8 again, right? And so generally, nighttime is a great time to top off your water meter with your LITERJON and then also simply refill it. Now you can see in the bottom right there, it's filling it back up. Boom. Now it is full. And once you get to this point in the game where you're able to use your Dew Reaper to harvest the dew to fill your LITERJON, water becomes a lot less of a hassle because now you're always carrying a water bottle on you. You need some water? No problem. You just take a sip from your LITERJON and then your thirst problem's solved. And then eventually it's going to be nighttime again. And so you kind of learn, hey, it's nighttime. I'm going to grab some water from those when I pass by them. And, it becomes very easy to maintain the water at that point. And then if you have to, you can use your water that's in your base. Now, the water that's in your base, you want to use as kind of a last resort. And this is kind of important to know. Why would you want to use this as a last resort as opposed to a first one? Well, I'm glad you asked. The reason is if we go over here to our ore refinery, when we look at our copper ingots, what does it require? Copper ore. That's it. It requires 4 copper ore. We have 3, so we can't make one right now. But iron ingots require water in order to craft iron. And you're going to need a lot of iron at first. And that iron is going to suck up all of your water. And so I advise leaving your water for crafting iron until you have plenty of it. And then eventually you'll need steel, right? And what does steel require? Even more water. And so it's really nice to try and leave the water inside of these purifiers if possible. It kind of use that as a last resort, and use the do outside, the free water, until you've got your water situation really handled well. Now, another item in our inventory here that we haven't talked about yet that's worth mentioning is the respawn beacon. Respawn beacon is a portable respawn point that you can carry around with you. You can only have one of these active at a time. And so when you use a respawn beacon, it will consume it, right? It'll put it on the ground and it will replace the last respawn beacon you planted. So you can only have one active at a time, but you equip this, and then when you're out and about, let's say you're far from home, you're on the other side of the map, and you're about to head into a potentially dangerous situation, you can just slap that on the ground. Boom, like that. Now, when you die, you'll get a list of places that you can spawn from, and your respawn beacon will be one, your base will be one, and you can choose between the two. You'll choose the respawn beacon if you want to respawn there, and hopefully it's a very short run to your corpse. And if you die to the worm, it takes everything. If you die to an NPC, or if you die to a sandstorm, or if you die to the sun or dehydration, what happens is you get to keep your gear, but all of your materials are left on the ground where you died, your inventory, right? And so what you want to do is run back, and you'll see a skull symbol, a very glowing skull symbol sitting on the ground for you to collect your loot that was in your bag, right? And you just get it. And so when that happens, it's pretty much no harm, no foul, right? You get everything back. All you had to do was run back to your corpse. Hopefully it wasn't too long of a run. If you placed a beacon down, it won't be too long of a run. When that's painful is when you didn't place a beacon down and you're on the opposite end of the map and you've got a 5-minute bike ride back to that location or something. All right, so the next thing in our inventory that's worth looking at here is our armor. So armor is going to do a few different things for you. It's going to give you actual armor that mitigates incoming damage, right? It's also going to do things like dash stamina cost reduction if it's a medium or a light armor, or it might increase the cost of certain movements if it's a heavy armor. So if we look at this armor right here, Kirib Heavy Jerkin, it's dash stamina increase cost. So it's up 15% as opposed to this one where it's a scout helmet, it's minus 6%. So that's kind of the primary difference between heavy and scout armor. Is the scout armor is making it cost less to be mobile and doing less mitigation, whereas the heavy armor, it's more expensive to use your stamina and stuff, but it is also mitigating more damage. And this game does a fantastic job of giving you all the stats on an item. Right here, you can see stamina cost, light dart damage mitigation, which is the primary form of ranged damage you're going to take. Your ranged weapons that you use in the first 30 hours of the game are going to be using light darts predominantly. Then you got blade mitigation if they're using a melee weapon on you. You've got concussive mitigation, so for grenades and stuff. And then you've got heavy dart mitigation. That is a slightly heavier ammo that you'll start seeing and using around the 20 or 30 hour mark in the game. And then you've got heat protection. The heat protection on this is 0, right? So you wear this out in the sun, you're gonna bake, you know, you're baking in that heavy armor. You wear this one out in the sun, this scout helmet, you've got 0.2 reduction. Now contrast that to a different type of armor in this game called the still suit, straight from the Dune movies and the Dune books, right? You've got these still suits that you can make. And the important thing to be aware of about the still suits is when it comes to just wanting to be protected from the sun and also to have your hydration meter topped off all the time, the still suit is going to be where it's at. This helmet, heat protection 0.3, so it's 50% more heat protection than the scout helmet I'm wearing. However, it's only got 3 armor and no other stats attached to it, right? Whereas this one has 23 armor and a few other stats attached to it. So still suit is something you wear for the convenience of not having to manage your water, your dehydration so much, but then also at the cost of a lot of nice defensive stats. Early in the game's going to have you craft your basic armor, then it's going to have you craft the still suit, and then after that, it's going to let you wear whatever you want. So that about covers it for your inventory menu. You can click here to see your character stats individually. You can see here we've got 87 out of 100 hydration, 124 out of 150 health, stamina, energy. We can see our armor values, armor mitigation, biome protection values, and dehydration capture, stamina costs, right? So all that good stuff there. Now here you can see this little A. We can press A and it's going to bring up that wheel for us. We can press it again and it's going to give us a slightly different view of our character. Now, the nice thing about this character view right here, right, you're essentially seeing all the same information, except over here, it's only showing you items that you can equip over here. So it's an easy way to just declutter this menu to only see stuff you can equip. It's also got 2 options right here that are very handy, right? So you'll see my eyes are blue because my character has consumed spice, turning my eyes blue, activating some powers that we'll get into in a minute. But I can check this if I don't like that, right? Now my eyes aren't blue. I can also hide my helmet because I'm wearing this helmet. What if you're one of those people, you like to see your character's face? You took all that time to design it. You don't want this weird helmet that you're wearing to cover it up. Well, you can do that, or you could hide it. Just check or uncheck that. And that's all right here under this menu. So that's there. I believe, I'm almost positive that these options are also if you go into the game's menu system. So if you just go to game settings, and it's in here somewhere as well, that you can turn those off. Now, before we go into crafting, we're going to talk about research. So I touched on research earlier in that you're going to find intel from those camps, and you're going to use that intel to learn how to do things. This one has a 5. That means it costs 5 intel to learn how to do. So we learn how to make this wind trap, right? Research. We have 76. We use it. 71. And now we know how to craft it. Pretty straightforward. And this is going to break things down by type. And then if you go into here, into the subsequent menus, it's going to break it down into what the required materials are. So it says, here's copper products, and here's iron products, and here's steel products. And generally speaking, iron is better than copper and steel is better than iron, right? So the farther down that you can make something, generally the better version of that thing it's going to be, until you're getting down here to aluminum, duraluminum, and plastanium products, right? So you've got all of these different tiers. The lower you are, the better the item, the more powerful it is, etc. Also, you know, you can go through these, and over here, it's telling you what you're looking at. So water discipline items. Here, this tab is combat items. This tab here is construction items. This tab here is exploration items, right? Like that survey kit that we talked about before, or your handheld resource scanner. You can scan resources and add some to the map. Then you've got here vehicle parts. So if you need to craft a vehicle, or you want to learn how to craft some vehicle part, you come to this tab right here. This first tab is just suggested. So see how it says suggested here? So this is not by any means all the items that you can craft at that moment. It's just ones that the game's going, hey, these might be useful to you, and we think you might want to consider creating them if you haven't. So just know that you do need to leave this first tab. You need to head over to these other tabs and explore them from time to time. Then you've got uniques. So while you're out playing the game, you're going to find uniques. You'll find these recipes. Uniques work in an interesting way. You'll find these most often from chests. Like there will be these really big chests at the end of a laboratory, an underground laboratory, or a shipwreck, right? In the final chest, you'll find this unique recipe. So you can hold F, as it says there. You can hold F to learn how to make it. It tells you, how do you fabricate this? The garment fabricator, okay? But we hold F, boom. It says, research Shadow Hood unique schematic. Upon using this item, you will obtain 1 Imperial permit for Shadow Hood. So this is the important thing to take note of. That means I can craft this item 1 time, right? So now I've learned how to craft it, and I can craft 1 of these and only 1 of these. So just because you learned how to make it doesn't mean you can create 1 for everybody in your group. No, you can create exactly 1 of them for the time being. So that's what this is right here. It says I've got 1 permit, right? Now, this one right here, it says I have 0 permits remaining because I already crafted those pants. I'm currently wearing them. If I find that recipe again, I can get 1 more permit, right? So I can craft yet another one. So that's just an interesting restriction to definitely be aware of in this game. So that's how the research system works, and that's how uniques within the research system work. Then you've got crafting, which you'll be able to create some basic items, your improvised items and your makeshift items. These you can create without a crafting table. But then when you want to create everything else, you're going to have a fabricator like this one or beyond. And so if we come to this fabricator here, we can create heavy darts. We can create power packs. We can create all that stuff that you need a fabricator to create here. Okay. And yes, this game does pull from your storage chests. So if you've got materials in here, like we've got this armor plating, right? Or this salvage metal, you don't have to pull that out to craft. It knows. He's got it in his storage chest. It'll pull straight from the storage into here, which thank God. I can't stand games that make me go to each chest, pull the items out before I can craft something. So yeah, that's how crafting here works. Now what you do is, it's very similar to crafting items in your inventory. So you'll say, I want to create this, and then it'll tell you what materials you need to create it. 10 of the iron ingots, 4 mechanical parts, 3 silicon blocks, 9 gun parts, right? We have loads of all of these materials because we've been out exploring. So we could craft 1, or we could craft a max of 7. I'm going to make 1 here just for example. And it shows here you see this circle disappearing, kind of, right? Like a reverse pie filling. And once that's full, you don't have to stand here, by the way. You can leave, you can watch it from out here, you can go do other things. And then once it's done, you just come here and it's right here waiting. And if you have another item, let's say we had crafted an improvised cutting ray, right? If you have more than one item waiting here, you'll see there's this item and it says plus one more that you can pick up. If you want to see all of them, let's say someone was using the crafting bench at the same time as you don't want to take the things they were crafting. In order to grab the ones you want, just expand this by pressing D or by clicking it. You can just grab the one that you wanted. Let's say somebody else crafted the cutter ray and you crafted this, so you just grab that, boom, and you take the item. Here it tells you that it can hold up to 10 items or a volume of 200. So, it's not infinite in terms of its storage. Just be aware of that. Similarly, the refinery can do the same. It can hold up to 200 items and only 5 different types. So we've got fairly large stacks here. That 200 weight limit does seem to go a long way. We've got 326 iron ingots. So that's the essentials of crafting that you needed to understand. And then we've got the skill tree. The skill tree is a big one. This is important. So every time you level, you're going to get skill points. You're going to use those skill points to unlock one of these. Let's say I wanted to learn this, a tractor field. And it says this uses a modified Holtzman field to draw attacks towards its center. So we attach this to an enemy and then our gun automatically kind of tracks to that enemy when we shoot bullets. Very cool. So we would just press spacebar to learn it, or we would hold it rather to learn it. If you would like to, you can respec your skill tree down here by hitting the respec skill tree button. Just be aware that you can do that. And it'll say, would you like to respec your skill tree? This can only be done once every 48 hours. So, don't waste this, but you can do it at no cost. Right. So that's great. The thing that's not immediately obvious when you're playing this game is you have different tabs up here. So you can stick to one tree, or you can go to a second tree and start unlocking passives or skills in that second tree. Now, before you can do that, right, at the very beginning of the game, when you create a character, it's going to ask you to choose a class. In this case, I chose the trooper, and it's going to ask you to choose a class, and that's going to determine which of these you have unlocked when you start. To unlock the rest of them, you have to find the NPC in the game that is considered that trainer. So for the planetologist, I would have to find the planetologist trainer. I would do a quest for him. Then once I've done that for him, he gives me the ability to access the passives in this tree. Now you'll notice that there's 3 dots here, 1, 2, 3, and I've only got the first one. And if we hover over it, it says unlock upgrade at the advanced trooper trainer. So now I would need to find the advanced trooper trainer in order to put 2 points into this to make the ability even better. And you can do this up to 3 times. And you've also got some capstone abilities and passives at the very top here that are unlocked the same way. You got to get to that advanced trainer that you'll find in the game, in the map somewhere, right? You do his quest and then boom, you are now able to unlock those capstone ones. So your options will be Trooper, Mentat, Planetologist, Bene Gesserit, and Swordmaster, right? And you'll be able to delve into each of these as much as you want. Let's say you wanted to focus on melee combat, so you go Swordmaster. You want to focus on range combat. Can't go wrong with something like the Trooper. Next, we have the Journey tab. The Journey tab is your main story quest tab. This is where all the purple quests that you have done or are currently doing will appear. So here you can see the current one says locate the 5th trial. So you will do trials 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's what these ones all are here. And in this tab, you can also see factions. So one of the things you get to do in this game is choose a side. You're going to be able to choose between one faction or the other and join them. And there will be a series of quests that you can do for either one or both, and ultimately pick a side. One of the factions initially kind of has a darker side to it. They play dirty, they play not so much by the rules, whereas the other side seems to feel a little less dirty, but who knows, once we get into the story more, it might be that both sides are just different kinds of dirty. We will see. And then in this tab, like in many others, you've got mini tabs in here, right? You've got this one here. This is where your trade post quests are going to show up when you grab from bulletin boards or NPCs and stuff like that. You'll pick up quests. It'll ask you to go out and do some simple things and come back. You turn it in. And it tells you right here what the rewards are going to be. So you never have to wonder what reward you're going to get for a quest. It tells you right here, 350 XP, 3,000 Solaris, a Sandbike inventory unit, a Sandbike booster, Sims cutter, and Scavenger light armor variant, right? So some cool rewards for this if you decide to do it. Speaking of Sandbikes and vehicles, I gotta show you guys how to create one of those. So we'll go over that next. So that's the contracts tab. And then there's the codex, which, you know, it's just kind of a lore thing if you want to dive into the lore more. And then you've got tutorial if ever you're not sure what happens when something else happens. So we click death and it says Arrakis is an unforgiving world, and death here is costly. Items in your backpack can be recovered from your death location. You will lose everything if you're killed by a sandworm or a Coriolis storm. So be careful if you see a Coriolis storm and not a sandstorm. Sandstorm, you can recover your body. Coriolis storm, you cannot. And that is an important distinction. And then here you have customization. Yes, you can customize the look of your character. So if we click on our chess piece here, you can see we can choose the default swatch, or we can change the color to this swatch or this swatch here, right? And it's got swatches instead of die channels, probably because, you know, well, they probably want to sell you some swatches at some point, right? And hopefully we get some good swatches, because these ones aren't doing it for me, these starter ones, but I bet you can find some really cool ones later on. But it is nice that they have a full die system in the game. I love that. I love customizing my character to make it look as cool as possible. And then finally in here, you can see how much Solaris you're carrying on you at that time. Definitely glance at this every once in a while and make sure you're not carrying too much stuff. And then over here, you've got your level. This character is currently level 43. Down here, you've got social. You can click that and you can open up your party menu. Alternatively, if you're on PC, you can just press P and it pulls up this menu as well. This is where you will invite friends to your party. It's where you'll add friends to your friend list, all of that stuff. If this character was online, there would be a symbol right here, a plus symbol. I just click that plus. It sends him a party invite. And then if he opens up the P menu, he clicks party invites, it'll show right here, hey, you've got a party invite from Lucky Ghost, and he can accept it. And then right here, it'll list both of our parties if we look at this tab. Also, you've got Communinet. So if you press N, it opens this up. This is a log of what has happened. So if you're wondering why your base was destroyed, you can usually come in here and it'll say, oh, a sandstorm killed your base, or a sandstorm killed your bike, or an enemy killed your bike, or your buggy was destroyed by the environment. So if something happened and you're not sure what, this event log is a pretty good job of kind of filling you in and letting you know, no, it wasn't a glitch. You got owned by that sandworm. Here you can also switch between different radio stations once you've gotten to that point in the game. Then we've got guilds. Once you join a guild, you can create a guild for 1,000 Solaris. Again, 1,000 Solaris is not a lot. One single quest will give you more than 1,000 Solaris, and you're going to do loads of quests. In my storage chests and on me, I think I probably have 50,000 Solaris, and that's after I lost a ton to a sandworm. So I've got way more Solaris than I've needed so far. So don't be afraid to spend it on either items that you can buy from NPCs. Definitely do so. If you see an item on an NPC, a lot of times it's more effective to buy it with tons of Solaris that you're sitting on than it is to use some of your precious materials to craft that item if you don't have a lot of those materials yet. And then the last tab here is the LANDSRAAD or the LANDSRAAD or the LANDSRAAD. The LANDSRAAD board represents the political will of the great houses during the current week-long LANDSRAAD term. So every week, the guilds and the houses in the game, they're going to compete to decide and to dictate what rules will be placed on the server and what rewards will be placed on the server for that week. And this kind of changes the gameplay loop for that week a little bit by incentivizing different activities, different things, and rewarding different things. It says each house on the board will have specific requirements that can be met to secure their vote in the LANDSRAAD voting session that precedes each term. A faction that gains control of the LANDSRAAD board can select a decree that will take effect in the upcoming week, affecting conditions server-wide for the duration of the term. So the people that succeed in affecting this vote are going to change the conditions for everybody on the server that week. A faction gains control of the LANDSRAAD board by securing a Sislerod, which is achieved by completing a row of house requirements horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. It's kind of like a Dune bingo here. LANDSRAAD vote requirements can be met by providing whatever a house representative asks for, or by maintaining control over designated territories in the deep desert. This is just another system that you can compete in and try to complete in the end game. This is more of an end game thing. You're not really going to be doing this in the first 30 hours or 40 hours. You're going to be doing this every week once you get to that end game to dictate rules for the server. Now, when you're in a party with other players, you sometimes are going to want to tell them, hey, there's an item right here. Oh, or you might want to tell them to go to a certain place on the map. Now, if you tap right click on the map, it leaves a pinpoint, but this is a personal marker, as it says there. It's personal, so your party members can't see it. But what you can do is you can put a marker down where you're at. So if you middle mouse down, just click instead of hold, you put a marker for your group, and they will see that wherever they are on the map. They'll see that marker both on their compass and on their screen, letting them know, oh, there's an item, there's a chest, there's loot here, the boss died right here, right? It's a good way to just indicate to your party something important is there. Okay, now let's talk about how to craft your vehicle. So one of the things you're going to need to craft a vehicle, you're going to need a welding torch. So you'd have to equip your welding torch. Another thing you're going to need is the vehicle parts. So you'll come in here, go to the vehicle tab, and you'll create all the essential parts. So you'll need a chassis, you'll need a whole, an engine, a tread, right? A sandbike PSU. You'll need all these things. So what you'll do is you'll craft this, tread. We need 2 treads. We need a PSU and a booster. Okay, so we've got all of that queued up. We're going to let that craft.
A few moments later.
We're going to grab all of those out of here now. And we're going to pull out our welding torch. And this is going to allow us to place all the components, right? Starting with the chassis. So we'll go ahead and slap that down. And then the next thing is this is the PSU. So we just hover over the bike and it's boom, there goes the PSU. Then we can put the engine that we made on. Then we can put one of the treads on, and then one of the other treads, and then the sandbike booster. And by the way, you can switch between the different items with your mouse wheel if you want to. So we'll put that, boom, there it is. Look at that. Now we have a functioning bike with a booster on it for a little bit of extra speed when we want. Now, when you get on a bike for the first time, it says update vehicle respawn point. Previous respawn point will be lost. So yeah, we'll say, yeah, sure, this is a fine place to respawn it. Now we get on this and you'll notice that it says it's out of fuel. Now, in order to power the bike, you're gonna need one of these, a small vehicle fuel cell. So the way this works is you come up to the bike or the buggy or the ornithopter, right? And you hold down F for more, and it gives you a few options. One of those options is to refuel it. So we do that, boom. Now it says refueled, new status 100%. Now, if we look at that fuel cell, it's half empty. So if we're out and about, we just leave that in our inventory, you know, because the last thing you want to have happen is your bike runs out of fuel in the middle of the desert, right? In the sand where sandworm can get you. So I recommend always having a fuel cell on you. When you exhaust this, it just disappears from your inventory. You'll find these while you're playing the game. You can craft them as well. So just kind of be sure you always have one on you while you get your bike. And it's going to keep you out of trouble. Now the bike works, you can travel, and if you've got the speed booster, you can hold Q for that extra speed. This thing turns, you know, on a dime sitting on a boat. Now that's the bike. There's another really important piece of information I need to tell you about the bike though. So hold F. What if you want a friend to get on the bike with you? Instead of the speed booster, you could also put a back seat on there so that you and a friend can go to the same place on the same vehicle. Very handy, right? And then other times you'll have a buggy and that has passenger seats, but people can't get in it unless you give them the ability to get in it. So what you'll do is you'll go to more, hold down F, go down to manage vehicle. Now in here, you can see the stats on your bike, but most importantly, right here, you got this key. Click that. And now you can add people to the permissions list, right? I can go, hey, I want to give Orkshizer the ability to jump on this bike right here. Boom. Now he's an associate, which means he can ride on it, but he can't do other things to it. He can't steal it. It's not his bike. But if I hit this up arrow, now he's a co-owner. So he has full control of the bike. Anything I can do, he can do. And this is something you can do with your bike. This is also something you can do with your base. F to manage it, hold F. And under permissions here, you can make people owners. You can make them associates so they can enter your base, right? Otherwise, the doors on your base, it won't open for them. Your friend tries to come in, they just won't be able to. And they'll be, hey, let me in your base. Make sure, add your friends to the permissions list, add your guildmates to the permissions list, make sure they can get in, boom. Now they're either an associate or a co-owner, and you know, how you dole that role out is up to you. And here you can see the difference between the roles and, you know, what they can do. Owner can do everything. Associate can do almost everything, but they can't promote or demote other players, and they can't move or demolish the console. And then the lowest tier here, you can view the ownership console, but you can't add players, can't remove players. You can't promote players. can't manage the base building and you can't demolish. Okay? Another thing you're going to want to make sure that you and your friends do when you create a base is you'll want to come in here and make sure that set as respawn location is checked. If you're the one that built the base, it's probably already checked. If your friend joined you and you gave them access to this base via the permissions menu, it may not be checked for them. They're going to want to make sure they check it. And that way they can use it as a respawn if they die. Now we've touched on refining ore and what that takes. You get some ore that you get with your CUTTERAY, and then you turn that into copper ore. And then you get iron ore. You combine that with water, you get iron ingots, steel, right? We talked about this. You get carbon. Now, in order to get carbon, you're going to need the CUTTERAY that allows you to effectively cut carbon and, grab that, right? So there is a progression to this game that's very familiar if you've played a survival game before, where you need copper and copper tools in order to get to iron gear and iron tools. And then you need those iron tools in order to farm the materials that allows you to create steel tools, right? So there's a nice little simple progression in that way. You've got the fabricator. This is where you create your items, your armor, your vehicle. And then there's advanced fabricators down the road that you will use once you unlock better materials. And then you've got your chemical refinery. This is where you can turn things into other materials. So some things that you craft might need lubricant, some things might need silicon blocks, some things might need cobalt paste, right? And then you've got the small vehicle fuel cell. In case you are wondering, where do I create that small vehicle fuel cell? It's right in here inside of the chemical refinery. And then you've got a recycler. So, hey, you've got duplicates of things, right? You're going to kill enemies. You're going to kill enemies, and you're eventually going to be collecting more armor and more weapons than you need, and oftentimes worse ones than you're wearing. And so the only real thing that you could possibly do with those that's useful is you can put them into the recycler to recycle them, like this improvised CUTTERAY. You can put this in here and it tells me I'm going to get salvage metal. If I put these pants in here, I'm going to get some spice infused iron dust. That's pretty valuable, because getting that spice infused dust, well, it's not exactly the easiest thing to come by. That's what the recycler does, and that's what you'll do with excess gear, excess weapons and stuff as you accumulate them. Then you've got the repair station. We touched on this earlier. This is where you're going to repair gear as it breaks. So now eventually you're going to be on your bike, right? You're going to be riding your bike around. In the bottom right corner of your screen right there, you're going to see that it says that parts of your bike are damaged, right? If it's yellow, like the center of the bike there is, it's in good condition, it's healthy. However, the treads on the front and the back seem to be taking damage, and so does the engine there, right? And so what we can do is we can pull out our handy dandy welding torch. Now, when you use your welding torch, you also need to have in your inventory welding wire. This is how you repair vehicles. So when we pull out the welding torch, it's in the assemble phase. So we're going to right click, and that takes us down to repair. Now we're in the repair menu for the welding torch. Now, when we hover over parts of the bike, we can see the durability, what can be repaired and what can't be repaired. So here you can see a circle where half of it's full of the yellow color, and then, 40% is red, and then there's like 10% there that is black. The black area can be repaired. The red area can never be repaired. And the better your welding torch, the more effectively it is going to be able to repair your bike without adding red to it. So as I repair it, that red bar is going to get bigger. Okay. So boom, there, I repaired it. So that is all as healthy as it can be now. We'll do that here as well. So we did that. Same here. And it's hard to see when the repair is this small, but the red bar is getting bigger every time I do that, right? So eventually I'm going to have to craft a brand new bike. And here's the engine. We'll repair it. Now, you can alleviate the amount of damage the bike's taking while you repair it and your gear and all this stuff by taking passives in the skill tree under, like, let's say scientist here, right? And it says your field training as a mechanic reduces the maximum durability loss of vehicle components when performing repairs. Reduce max durability loss by 20%. So you can mitigate the amount of damage you're doing to your bike by taking passives like this, also by using better torches. So that's just a couple of ways to handle that. And that's how repairing the bike works and everything like that. You will absolutely need to repair your bike. The durability on the tracks and the engine especially seem to go pretty fast. Now, when you're out in the world, you'll find entire bikes. They're usually really beat up and dire need of repairs, but you'll find extra bikes that you can bring back to base. So you'll put your bike back into your bike storage gun there, and you'll hop on the new one and you'll bring it back to your base. And this is why it's going to be nice to have something like this in your base, a vehicle garage where you can store all your vehicles. And you'll need one that's a lot bigger than this eventually, because right after the bike, you're able to craft a buggy. And after the buggy, you can craft an ornithopter, right? So you're going to have some pretty large vehicles that you'll need to store inside of your base. And then last but not least here, I just want to touch on the blood purifier. I kind of explained this already in the beginning of the video, but just in case I missed something, some component of it, because I was kind of going over it in the capacity of hydrating you. But the way this works is you're going to have blood bags that you collect or craft, and you're going to fill these up with blood with your tool that sucks the blood out of enemies here, this blood extractor. And you'll fill these bags and they'll appear right here. And then you can deposit blood from those bags. Okay. This right here is showing you the items that you're carrying that can hold water. These down here show you the items you're carrying that can deposit blood. That's what the difference here is. And we could either deposit water into here if we went and found dew off of plants and we wanted to fill this up with the dew from the plants. We could do that. We could just drop it off here, or we could fill it up with blood and the blood gets converted to water, right? Either one, two different ways to get to the same end. And again, you need water for yourself, keeping yourself alive, but also for crafting iron ore and for crafting steel. You're going to need a lot of water for production later on. So just something to be aware of. Okay, so this is what one of those outposts looks like that has quests for you, quest hub, everything like that. The bulletin board I was talking about, you can come interact with the contracts board and you can pick up quests. If there's any here to turn in or to collect, it'll show up right here. You can just click turn in or collect when they show up. And then you've got your NPCs like this guy right here. He's one faction. He can give you quests to potentially join one faction, or this guy over here to join the other faction. But one of the most useful NPCs here is this guy right here. You'll see the symbol, meaning you can pay for things here with the Solaris currency that you get for doing those quests. So I'm here to trade. You can also find Solaris on enemies, right? There's more than one way to get it. And here you can buy all sorts of items that you might need. Purchasing this Dew Reaper is totally worth it if you haven't crafted one, because most likely you'll get the ability to buy it from him well before you've crafted one yourself. So it's really handy to take advantage of that. And same with a solid medium blood sac if you don't have one yet. Any of these tools, you know, again, you're going to get way more of this Solaris than you are using. So feel free to use some of it. It's real easy to get more. You know, enemies drop it all the time. Quests give it to you as a reward. So, you know, don't be too stingy with it. If you see something in here that you need, feel free to grab it and utilize it. Okay, one last tool for us to go over is the static compactor. This is an item you can use to collect flour sand. It's like this soft sand that you can then combine to create silicone, which you're going to need quite a bit of at some point in the game. So the way you use this is you'll see these plumes of white dust shooting into the sky. Okay, like this one right here. You'll work your way over to it. And now the hard thing about this is you see the orange meter, the worm is aware of me and he wants to come here. Okay, so I'm trying not to attract the worm. So you got to be careful of that when you're doing this. Okay, I'm going to get off the bike because it's definitely making a lot of noise. It's attracting the worm. I'm going to try to walk slowly to this. I've got the thing out, right? And then you just shoot like this. And each time I'm doing that, it is letting the worm know I'm here. And then now I can pick up flour sand, hold that down, and boom, we got 45 flour sand. That is quite a bit. That allows us to make quite a bit of, oh man, the thing went red. That means he knows I'm here. He is well aware of my existence. Oh, so we want to get out of here. He's on his way. He is on his way. Where is he at? Okay, I think that's him over there. We're gonna hoof it. Oh, there he is. Yep. So when that meter turns red, you definitely want to get out of there. That means it's time to go. It's time to go. Okay. So that's how you collect flour sand that you can then turn into silicone. It's a pretty simple device, but very effective. It can also reveal hidden walls. Sort of like you'll see like a pile of sand against a wall and you can use it on that to dissolve that wall and find, you know, whatever's hidden behind it. So if you see a bunch of sand along a wall, you might be able to use it to find something secret. Now, this game really does promote exploration all over the place, whether it's going down underground into these testing stations or whether it's climbing way up high onto these pillars. You are rewarded for exploring in this game. Sometimes you'll climb up high into these and you'll find a little bandit camp, if you will. There's a couple guys there and there's some loot, and sometimes you'll find a chest, right? It's very rewarding. So don't be shy about climbing up high, looking for chests, climbing up high, looking for bandit camps. And similarly, like if you see a chance to go down, always good. Some of the best loot in the game is hidden in the laboratories underground. Always a good place to explore at least once each one of those to get those valuable resources. And you can go in and explore them again. As of right now, the big chests at the end of the laboratories, right? Because nodes do respawn. So if you collect, for example, this node right here, it will respawn in short order, right? You just scan it, you harvest it, and in a matter of minutes, it will be back. And so if you've got one of those right outside your base, you'll be able to use it over and over. And same goes for the chests. If you've got a bandit camp right outside your base, you can go and you can kill them every so often. It's longer than 5 minutes, I'd say, but like less than 20 for like basic camps. And then the big chests, my understanding is that the big chests at the end of the laboratories underground, that respawn timer is about 45 minutes in here. And that is just that has some really good loot, and it has unique blueprints. It has valuable crafting materials, right? So you can go back every 45 minutes. So it might be worthwhile to revisit some of those places. If you need more of the materials within, just wait 45 minutes before you go back. And then if you're ever curious, you forget what any of these symbols are for, what they mean, or you see a new symbol pop up, you can click legend here and you can see a legend of all the symbols. This is what a party member looks like. This is where your death location is, defeat location, your default respawn points, your respawn beacon, all this kind of stuff will appear here. One thing to be aware of is when you're out and exploring, like if you find salvage metal, it'll pop up on your map, but every so often the server will reset and these respawn locations will change, and they'll also be removed from your map in the process. So you'll have to go out and find the new location, and then that'll put the new location on your map. Now, when you get on a bike, it'll tell you if it's sheltered or unsheltered, and that's going to be important to know because if it's unsheltered, sandstorm could destroy it. So as you can see, we pulled into this garage and it says sheltered in base. And sometimes that's not completely obvious. Sometimes your base isn't quite complete, or sometimes you think you've pulled into a cove, but you're not sure, or a cave. And that's just one easy way to know, is it sheltered or is it not? And this says sheltered in base. So we know it is sheltered. It is protected from the sandstorm as long as I keep my generator here fueled so that shield is up. All right, guys, that is absolutely everything that you need to know to play this game with confidence. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them down in the comments below. I will try to read and respond to every single one. Yes, I do that. And as I said at the beginning of the video, let me know, did I satisfy my quest to create the most complete beginner guide for Dune Awakening on the internet? That's something I try to do with every big game that comes out. It's my passion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this beginner guide, and be sure to like and subscribe for more Dune content. I'm going to be making loads more guides. In fact, there will be another guide popping up at the end of this video for my recommended build guide for Dune Awakening to start your playthrough, as well as the mistakes to avoid video and so much more. So be sure to subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Massive shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you guys so much for clicking the join button and becoming a member of this channel and supporting it in the big way you do and making these large videos possible. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of this video using the QR code on screen or the link in the description. And thanks again for getting to level 20 and helping me plant 10 trees with Raid this month. Thanks so much for watching. If you're not sure what to do next, maybe check out one of the videos popping up on screen right now. And I hope to see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe.